In July 2021, the quiet suburban community of Pinehurst was thrust into a nightmare that would forever alter its peaceful existence. At first glance, Pinehurst appeared to be the embodiment of idyllic suburban life. Well-manicured lawns, charming white picket fences, and a strong sense of community. Its residents were friendly and polite, exchanging warm greetings in the streets. Children played outside until the sun dipped below the horizon, and the local school served as a hub for social activities. On Sundays, families gathered in each other's homes, and the town's small church was a center of comfort and connection. Life in Pinehurst seemed perfect, untouched by the chaos of the outside world. But beneath this serene surface, cracks were beginning to form, and a storm was brewing that no one could foresee. At the heart of this tension were the Martins. David, a 42-year-old real estate developer, and his 39-year-old wife, Claire. Their marriage had long been considered the gold standard of what a successful, loving partnership should look like. David, with his charismatic charm, had risen to prominence in the competitive real estate market of Pinehurst. Known for his persuasive skills and sharp business acumen, he was a respected figure, often seen at the local golf club, hosting meetings with clients and networking with colleagues. His confidence was magnetic, and he commanded attention wherever he went. Claire, a former event planner, had devoted herself entirely to raising their two children, Emily and Jack. She was deeply involved in the community, organizing bake sales, volunteering at the local food bank, and participating in charity events. Her elegance and warm demeanor had earned her the admiration of everyone around her. From the outside, the Martins were the epitome of a perfect couple, successful, beautiful, and deeply involved in their community. But behind closed doors, their marriage was deteriorating. David's ambition had always driven him, and he had worked tirelessly to provide a life of luxury for his family. Yet, as his success grew, so did the emotional distance between him and Claire. Long work hours, constant travel, and a relentless focus on business meant that David was frequently absent from the home. Family dinners were often skipped, school events ignored, and his attention was constantly consumed by the demands of his career. Claire, once the vibrant heart of their family, felt increasingly isolated and dissatisfied with her life. She had sacrificed her career and personal dreams to support David, and as time went on, she began to feel like a mere shadow of herself. In the midst of this growing emotional void, David met someone who would change everything. Emma Walsh, a 28-year-old kindergarten teacher, had recently moved to Pinehurst with her 5-year-old son, Noah. Emma had left behind a tumultuous past marked by a bitter divorce and had hoped that a fresh start in Pinehurst would offer her and Noah a chance at happiness. Her warmth, kindness, and nurturing nature quickly made her popular in the town, especially at Pinehurst Elementary, where she poured herself into her teaching. She was known for staying late to help her students and for being actively involved in school functions. Despite her struggles as a single mother, Emma had found fulfillment in her work and in the bond she shared with Noah, who was the center of her world. David and Emma first crossed paths at a neighborhood fundraiser, and their connection was instant. While Emma was still healing from her divorce, David's charm and attentiveness made her feel seen in a way she hadn't in years. For David, Emma represented an escape from the pressures of his life at home, where he felt increasingly trapped by the demands of his career and family. Their initial conversations were innocent enough, exchanging stories about their children and making small talk. But over time, these interactions deepened into something more. David began to seek Emma out more frequently, at school events, community functions, and even through private text messages. Emma, though initially hesitant, found herself drawn to David, his attention filling a void she hadn't even realized was there. As their friendship blossomed, so did their emotional connection. They shared intimate moments that seemed to offer both of them something they had been lacking in their lives. David's affair with Emma was an escape, a breath of fresh air in a stifling existence, while Emma found herself feeling desired and valued again, something she hadn't experienced in the wake of her failed marriage. The affair quickly escalated. Their first kiss happened in late June, in a secluded park, while their children played nearby. It was a moment of stolen intimacy, sparked by Emma's vulnerability as she confided in David about her fears as a single mother. The kiss was electric, igniting a passion neither of them had expected. From that moment on, they could not stay away from each other. They met in secret locations around Pinehurst, renting motel rooms, sneaking away during school hours, and even meeting at Emma's house when Noah was at school. Their relationship was filled with excitement and guilt, a dangerous balance of longing and remorse. But as the affair progressed, the stakes grew higher. Claire, already suspicious of David's increasing distance, began to notice his frequent absences, his distracted demeanor, and his increasingly erratic behavior. David's phone became a constant companion, buzzing with texts and emails that he would quickly glance at, sometimes excusing himself from family dinners or events to take a call. Claire, sensing that something was wrong, began to watch him more closely. Her suspicions were further confirmed when she found a receipt from a cafe, revealing that David had been there with Emma. The discovery triggered an emotional confrontation, but David managed to deflect her questions with weak excuses and evasions, further deepening the rift between them. As July wore on, the affair became harder to conceal. David and Emma's secret encounters grew riskier, with neighbors beginning to notice their strange behavior and awkward encounters. One afternoon, the two nearly got caught sharing a kiss in a secluded area of the park by a neighbor, and Claire caught David in yet another lie. Tensions in the Martin household reached a breaking point, with arguments becoming more frequent and emotional. Claire, filled with anger and frustration, found herself standing at the edge of a precipice, torn between confronting David and keeping the facade of their perfect life intact. On July 25, 2021, the simmering tension finally reached a boiling point. The day was oppressively hot, the air thick with humidity, mirroring the emotions that had been building up for months. David had concocted a believable excuse to spend the afternoon at Emma's house, telling Claire that he needed to meet with a client. Emma, in turn, arranged for Noah to attend a friend's birthday party, ensuring that she and David would have the house to themselves. Claire, however, had grown too suspicious to trust him. That morning, she watched as David carefully chose his clothes, his hands trembling slightly as he grabbed his keys. Something didn't feel right, and her intuition screamed at her that her worst fears were about to be confirmed. She decided to follow him. Claire trailed David's car through the winding streets of Pinehurst, her heart racing with anxiety and anger. When she saw him pull into Emma's driveway, her worst suspicions were confirmed. The surge of emotion was overwhelming. Betrayal, hurt, rage. She parked her car some distance away and sat in it for a moment, trying to steady her shaking hands and gather the courage to confront the truth. The sounds of laughter drifting from inside Emma's house made her blood boil. With determination fueled by heartbreak, Claire got out of her car and walked to the front door. She hesitated for a moment, her heart pounding in her chest, but then, without knocking, she pushed the door open. Inside, David and Emma froze, their faces full of shock and guilt. For a moment, the room was eerily silent. Claire, seething with rage, demanded answers. What the hell is going on here? Her voice trembled with fury, and David, caught completely off guard, tried to stammer out an explanation. But Claire was beyond listening. Her anger erupted in a storm of accusations, each word more painful than the last. Emma tried to intervene, but her efforts were futile against the tidal wave of Claire's wrath. "You betrayed me!" Claire screamed, her voice breaking. "How could you do this to our family?" David, attempting to calm her, reached out to touch her arm, but the gesture only intensified Claire's fury. In a blind, unthinking rage, Claire's eyes fell on a heavy vase on the mantel. Without thinking, she grabbed it and swung it at David, striking him hard on the shoulder. But she didn't stop. She struck again and again, each blow landing with sickening force. Emma, horrified, fumbled for her phone and dialed 911, her hands shaking uncontrollably as she described the unfolding nightmare. "Please hurry," she gasped. "Someone is seriously hurt." David's cries of pain filled the room, his body growing limp as Claire continued her relentless assault. The floor and walls were splattered with blood, and Emma could only watch in horror as the man she loved was beaten to a bloody pulp. David's attempts to defend himself were futile, and eventually his body grew still, the life draining from him. Claire stood over him, panting heavily, the vase slipping from her bloodied hands and shattering on the floor. Her eyes were wide with disbelief, as if the gravity of what she had just done had yet to fully sink in. By the time the police arrived, the living room was a scene of absolute devastation. Furniture was overturned, and the walls were stained with blood. David was barely recognizable, his wounds so severe that there was nothing the paramedics could do. Claire was led away in handcuffs, her body limp, her eyes vacant. Emma, still in shock, tried to answer the officer's questions, her voice trembling. David was gone, and the quiet community of Pinehurst was left reeling from the horrific violence that had shattered the lives of its residents. The aftermath of the violence left a profound silence hanging over the once peaceful neighborhood. The shockwave from that day rippled through Pinehurst, leaving its residents to grapple with the brutal reality of what had occurred. The trial of Claire Martin became a nationwide sensation. It revealed the dark, hidden lives that had existed behind the picturesque facade of suburban perfection. The courtroom was packed with reporters, curious residents, and onlookers eager to witness the drama unfold. Claire's defense centered around a plea of temporary insanity, arguing that her emotional distress and the discovery of her husband's affair had driven her to commit the crime. The prosecution, however, painted a different picture, one of premeditated violence, claiming that Claire had carefully planned her actions in a fit of calculated rage. Emma, struggling to hold herself together, testified about the affair and the guilt that had consumed her. David's colleagues and friends spoke of his charm and ambition, while neighbors recounted the growing tension between the Martins. In a dramatic climax, Claire took the stand and tearfully recounted the events leading up to that fateful day. She spoke of her sacrifices, her feelings of isolation and neglect, and her desperation to hold on to the family she had worked so hard to create. Her words were a haunting reminder of the fragile balance between love and duty, and the devastating consequences when that balance is shattered. Thanks for watching.